Hello and welcome. I'm Bruce Bro with the National Foundation for Danish America. And today we are very pleased to be speaking with Danish American actor Connie Nielsen, who is playing the title role in the upcoming Viaplay series, The Dreamer, Becoming Karen Blixen. To ask a few questions of Ms. Nielsen is Kyle Reinhart of Scandinavia House and the American Scandinavian Foundation in New York. Kyle, thank you, and welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I always like to start off with the beginning. Where did this idea for the series come from, and how easy was it to find support for this series? And I was also curious about the main team working on it. Were they in from the beginning, or did they come on as the series developed?
So the whole thing started out at the Karen Blixen Museum. I was doing at the museum, I was doing a press junket day, the whole day with loads and loads of journalists, the whole day for another project that I'd been doing. And I had not had the time to really go and look at the museum or anything like that. And just as I'm about to leave out the side door, I see a small painting on a wall inside of another room. So I kind of spy it between two door frames, and I kind of go hold on a minute, it's got to go see that for a second. And so I go and I look at this. It's a classical bust. It's a drawing, very beautifully done, and it has a certain light to it too. So I'm kind of fascinated. And all of a sudden, the museum director is standing right next to me over my right shoulder, and she's talking to me, and she's like, "Karen painted those." Mm-hmm. And I look and I go "What, all of these other ones too?" And she's like, "Yeah, all of them." And I was like, wow, "That's extraordinary. That woman is that good at several things." She's like, "Did you know that she didn't become a writer until she was 46, 47. And she had lost everything. She had arrived back from Africa, heartbroken, suicidal. She was bankrupt, and there was nothing for her to live for. And now she was moving in under the thumb of her mother and her mother's sister, and a kind of sort of provincial Denmark of the time. And that's when she finds her voice. That, in that worst moment of her life, is when she discovers really, or decides that she will express herself as an artist. And I, in that moment, walked out into the car thinking, that's a movie. That's a movie I want to see. I want to see a story that is inspiring that way, in an almost old-fashioned kind of way, where you see someone overcoming inhuman odds and actually, succeed overwhelmingly at something against all odds. And I go into the car. I realize I'm driving back with my producer, Caroline Lett, and I tell her what I've just heard, and we look at each other. We're like, "That's a movie, right?" And she's like, "Yeah." And then I start saying, but we have to make it sort of how when they write about female artists, they always write about their sex life or their love life, so it's either romanticized or eroticized, but they're artists. This is a intellectual and creative and experience that we need to tell. And so, obviously we can't sit and watch her type. So I was thinking we could take one of the stories, and she's like, "Connie, just write me 3 pages." And so I wrote the 3 pages, and the idea from the beginning was that we would see Karen's universe, which is a very special universe, as you all know, come alive in the writing, and that we will film that and make that part of the biopic. Then I sent it, and then Caroline said, "Okay, I have this writer that I really want you to meet. She's read your concept, she likes it. So I met with Dunja Grue, and then, you know, she spent a year kind of like getting all the research together. We all spent a year just plowing through, reams and reams and reams of scholarly articles, books, letters, everything, like a lot of research. And then we started having script meetings about, you know, where do we go? Who do we go? And then Dunja Grue came up with like this fantastic focus around the family and how the family really is more than just the mother and the aunt that I had written about, but really is also about her siblings. And this whole culture now comes alive in Grue's hands. And then it was really about almost the problem of choosing like which among all of these stories would the best exemplify through the personnage à clé, like the characters, the key characters that would reveal the problematics of her real life stories and the real life characters that she then worked out through the characters in the book. And there Grue came up with the idea that we should take the Dreamers. And the Dreamers was such a fantastic choice because it's also where Karen treats the whole idea of gender in this story, where she takes like these archetypes of women, the revolutionary woman, the artist, in this case an opera singer, the saint, in this case the leader of a religious sect who gets seduced, and a prostitute. And it's like these four women who are mysterious, and the four men, or the three men actually, who pursue them, to try to capture them, to control them. And that was so a perfect, she had actually written them to be clear manifestations of her ex-husband, her lover, and certain characters that she had in her life. And so it lent itself so perfectly to doing that. And so that's what you see in the series.
And when did they become a series versus a film?
From the beginning, almost, because we knew it was going to take some time to tell the story, and that was worth taking that time.
And then, so how did you become Karen Blixen? Were there any specific nuances that you felt that you must have, or was there anything that you felt like, I'm just going to play my own role of Karen Blixen? And also, the series covers a wide swath of her life as well. What were the challenges of portraying her for over 30 years on screen?
Well, that was what I was saying to Grue when we were having our script talks. I would be like, so Grue, so who's going to play all those different women in the series? And she's like, well, you have to play them. And I said, so who's going to have to play like the young woman in Africa? And she's like, well, you have to play it. It's just like, oh my God, are you out of your mind? That's like crazy. And so I was really scared. First, how was I just physically going to be able to first put myself in a place where, after having played not one, but three superhero movies where I was built, like I was so built, I was bigger than I'd ever been in my life. And I had to starve those muscles off my body. And so I starved myself for the first 6 months to just get into the place of being the physically and mentally broken down person who comes back from Africa at the beginning of the series and who has tried to commit suicide, to then, after 3 months of staying in that place, then I had to start getting ready to physically recover from that, start eating again. And so, because I was already the first person on set and the last person to leave, I quite literally started waking up at 4 or 4:30 in the morning to do my workout in the morning. And the producers had to find a gym and a trainer who would train me that early in the morning so that I'd at least started looking, fresh enough and healthy enough to play all of those other characters. And then we did that. But at the end, when we were shooting the Africa parts, I will tell you, I was exhausted. Like I was mentally, physically, emotionally exhausted.
How long did the shoot take?
We started in June and we ended in October.
Okay. And as a Danish actor, did you feel any exceptional pressure to portray one of Denmark's most famous persons of all time?
Well, I mean, I think I was really I was more sort of like desperate to physically and mentally get close to her. So I kept on like looking for and working with my director on the physical, how she physically moved. And the challenge was that, almost everybody knows her from pictures and videos of when she's very old. Mm-hmm. And so it's basically, I'm playing her 20 years before that, and then for the 30 years before that. So I'm kind of like having to do both a stretch, but at the same time, also having to go from being a superwoman to being a bird, looking like a tiny little sparrow and being physically and mentally ill. And so I was like, oh my God, guys, I need to have a prosthetic nose and I need to have a prosthetic chin because, my face is very different from hers. And so we did all these tests, and both tests were nixed by the producers and the director. And I was just like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, I remember I was crying to the director. I can't play her on just my naked face. I don't look like her. And they're like, no, but you will have the essence of her. And that's what matters. Like, and they used Joaquin as an example in when he played Johnny Cash. Like Johnny Cash, I mean, Joaquin and I actually met him. He was like a 6 foot tall guy, and Joaquin is not a 6 foot tall guy, and he's not Texan, right? But he went into the essence of it, and so they were like, you have to go into the essence of her rather than have to, count on these things. And that was a leap of faith. And then I thought, okay, I will hit it with her accent and her voice. She had a very sort of like very characteristic guttural way of speaking. And she was almost like she had a little bit of a speech defect as well. And so I worked for months to speak like her in that archaic Danish. And then my director came to me after the first day and she's like, I understand that you really want to have this accent, but it's so different from everybody else in her environment. And so you can't talk like that. And I was like, you're kidding me. I can't even have her voice. And they're like, no, you have to use your voice. Okay. And so it was a huge leap of faith that where I really had to trust my director. And ultimately, I'm super glad that I did, that I really trusted her and that I didn't insist on the prosthetic nose or the prosthetic anything, that it really became about characterizing it from her heart, from my heart, from my soul. Not to become all highfalutin, sorry, but that was really what the process felt like to me.
Well, we're starting to run out of time, so I would just want to ask one final question. And what impression of Karen Blixen do you want to leave with the viewers after they have seen this series?
I wanted to retrieve her a little bit from a lot of critical work that has been written about her after her death, where she has had little to no voice because everybody else got to write about her. And I wanted to kind of like retrieve her good name and her the fact that she was an extraordinary artist. And I wanted to show that in addition to that, she had the heart of a lion, and that she is worthy of so much respect, and that her literature to this day has so much to give. Her language and her ability to conjure worlds and magic is to me still unparalleled. And I wanted to be part of bringing that story not just back, because it's truly an unknown story. People just don't know this story, and I'm so excited that people will get to know, and I think admire her even more, knowing all of this is what she went through.
Well, thank you so much, Connie, for this wonderful conversation this morning. Yes, and I hope everyone does watch The Dreamers, which will be on Viaplay in the US in January. So thank you so much.
Thank you.